Hi! In this video, we're going to talk about the basics of writing dialogue. How should you format your dialogue? What are some common mistakes people make when writing dialogue? Why does any of it matter? By the end of the video, you should understand how to write a scene with dialogue and be able to answer those questions. Let's get started. First up, how to format your dialogue. In general, every time you change the person you're writing about, that is the subject, you should start a new paragraph. For example, you can have one paragraph about what Abe is doing, thinking, saying, feeling, and anything else that focuses on Abe. But once you start talking about somebody else, like Sarah, you'll need to start a new paragraph. Once you switch back to Abe, you should start a new paragraph again. New subject, new paragraph. So whether you move to another character's thoughts, words, actions, or anything else, it's a new subject, so you should start a new paragraph. Let's talk about some common mistakes people make when writing dialogue. First, writers might start a new paragraph too often, which can get confusing. Take a look at a modified version of the scene from the previous slide. Pause the video and read through it. What did you notice about this format? It was probably a bit confusing as it jumped around so often. Sometimes a new paragraph makes it seem like the subject has changed, even though it hasn't. This is confusing for readers. Something else that can be confusing for readers is when you don't change paragraphs often enough. Here's another version of that same scene. Pause the video and read through it. This version of the scene probably wasn't quite as confusing as the one with too many paragraphs, but it isn't as readable as the original scene. Look at the second paragraph here. Sarah is the subject, but then it switches to Abe, then goes back to Sarah, all in one paragraph. Even though the only speaker in this paragraph is Sarah, we hear Abe's thoughts in between the moments where Sarah speaks, which makes the whole thing feel a little bumpy. It's easier to follow these things when the characters are separated by paragraphs. So why does this stuff matter? Why should we think about how we format our scenes when writing? Well, proper formatting makes it easier for readers to focus on the story and engage with your writing, instead of doing extra work to figure out what's going on. If you make things clear, there will be fewer barriers between the reader and the text. Knowing how to format your narratives also helps you as a writer, because if you're familiar with the proper structure of narrative writing, you'll be able to write clearly, almost without trying. You won't have to worry all the time about whether or not you're making sense. One last tip. It's super helpful to read other narratives often, so you can see what makes sense and what doesn't. Noticing these things will help create a mental rulebook for how to write well. Keep reading, keep writing, and keep going. You got this.